in a dimly lit laboratory at Brookhaven National Laboratory. Long before glowing screens filled living rooms and pockets around the world, a quiet revolution flickered to life on an oscilloscope. It was 1958, and William Higginbotham, a physicist better known for his work on nuclear research than entertainment, had a simple problem. Visitors were bored. Science exhibits felt cold, distant, untouchable. So instead of another static display, he imagined something different, something interactive. With a few lines of code and analog circuitry, he created Tennis for Two, a glowing dot arching back and forth across a tiny screen, mimicking a game of tennis. It wasn't meant to change the world. It wasn't even meant to last. But in that moment, as curious visitors picked up controllers and played, something entirely new was born. Not just a game, but the idea that technology could be fun, human, and alive. Video games, as it were, began as a notion of fun, of entertainment, for the masses, for profit, for art, for a chance to show the world that we are capable of. Independent creation, truthfully and stylized in the ways of talent, of the capacity to show others that anyone can place an idea into the mind, to introduce it into the world. But games are a technical art, and require practice and care to create something that is personal, and stories allow that form of art, allow others to remind the world that creation isn't held by the hands of a single company, of a monarch of the art and the world around us. No. It's held by the fingertips that we put into every single ounce and droplet of imagination. This surge of potential and power to bring life to pixels on a screen. The smell of freshly printed paper for that board game about biology you had to make in 5th grade. The first binding of cardboard to make something truly breathtaking to follow in our very footsteps. I've mentioned some of my favorite video games here and there for a variety of reasons. You have the bigger and well-known ones like Minecraft for its endless creativity, and while no longer considered indie, it still gives the people of the world, children and adults alike, a platform to create the capacity to make whatever it is that we want, whether it is the concept of making a calculator of redstone, whether making an entire machine from an original assignment to create a simple boat, walking through the ruins of an old house that once housed your past family members from a curse of all generations, to speaking with the Grim Reaper whose childhood is tragic, or whether it is to create a nightmare level that a plumber has to traverse through. The fun of it all, the concept of truth and justice surrounding the test that we give ourselves, is the reason why it is so special. Personalization. And so today we are going to be playing and analyzing a game that we have to win today. As per the title says, this is You Have to Win the Game. Made in May 2012, this game is a free exploration platform with a retro 1980s PC aesthetic where we, apparently have to win this game. Which, for all intents and purposes, is pretty fun, and a simple game to follow from what I've been told, though I've only played a bit of it in the past. But I hope that we can explore this place together. A labyrinth of joy and pain, the initial live video that I want you all to enjoy, and for myself as well. But definitely leave a comment on what indie or small games you all would like me to, play for you guys as well. And we'll be seeing what it is that makes indie games and indie creation in general so personalized. So, let's get started here. I guess we'll start on normal. Well, here we are. Not played this game in quite a while. Probably not as long as Monument Valley, of course, but I actually have not even seen this for a long time. Again, simple instructions. Again, pretty similar and reminiscent of Mario games. Give a little bit of Mega Man as well. And I decided to go through with this because of the fact that it allows us to pretty much understand what it takes to really create such a viable experience such as this as well. fun game as well. Yeah, and it takes a lot of time, of course, as with anything else. Even still, I mean, I think it is a pretty fun situation to find ourselves in as well. And I made the same mistake when playing Monument Valley last time as well, due to the fact that it took me quite a while, and because I can't juggle two things at once while thinking about these situations, we are. We'll try to see if we can play the game first before anything else here. Unlike most games that we would normally go through, we don't necessarily have a lot of lore for this game. And that's because of the fact that it doesn't really provide much of a lore to really follow at the same time. And indie developers, I mean, they kind of have this experience as well, right? They often work for the pure joy of it rather than the external rewards that we essentially give any number of jobs that we essentially follow as well. And again, this intrinsic motivation is like this is fueled by their autonomy, right? This freedom of choice, the freedom to design, and pretty much do whatever you want without corporate or publisher interference. And as a self-published author myself, I can kind of see where that joy of just creating something for you really comes from. You have these little designs as well. Of course, you have the classic aspect of this being essentially like something that you would find in a old arcade kind of cabinet as well. And I mean, it's just a really fun like, design too. And again, I think it really just describes a lot of what we loved as in our childhoods as well, right? And there was a concept of it was called identifiability, I believe, where research suggests that the audience's constant evaluation of art is more favorable when they believe that it was created by one person. Right? There is a personalization within itself as well. Right? And a single authored work provides a more vivid picture than anything else that we can really imagine in these situations. And again, it kind of shows us this creative process that not many of us really go through as well, which is entirely important here. And similar to yours, trial and error. Right? This game isn't necessarily what I would call immensely difficult, but it definitely takes a couple of tries to really get anything. Due to the fact that, again, it's all about insinuating what is the best effort that we put forward. There are these secrets to be found in all these situations, too. And because of our trial and error, we end up finding these kind of situations here, too. I mean, what else does this personalization really provide us? Well, it provides us with emotional resonance, right? Personal art, in this case, serves as this mirror. Oh, funny enough, cognitive resonance. But it serves as this mirror for our emotions, where the artist's creations here, they give us these unique experiences and struggles that resonate within us deeply. And this creates a personal interaction where these kind of two sadnesses can essentially meet, making both the artist and the audience feel less alone in theirs. And maybe it is a nostalgic aspect to it all, right? But I feel like even in modern day, it is a representation of something that can occur properly. It allows us to really create this entire situation more than anything else. And the fact that there is no music even in this kind of game thing is just, it allows us to really contain ourselves in this kind of sense of, I wouldn't necessarily call it melancholy, but definitely a sense of cognitive silence of sorts. It's a really fun thing, to be honest, but I mean, even still, right? It allows us to really become who we are. We're individual people. we create within ourselves this entire state of realizing who we are, what we become because of these entire situations. Of course, we also have our authenticity, our vulnerability of sorts, if you even want to call it that. And it allows us to really contain a lot of those entire moments within ourselves too. Damn, can't get out here. Of course, I never really had the privy of playing a lot of these kind of arcade-like games. Often, in case, I would probably play them whenever we went camping, whenever I went with my family and such. But even still, in a sense, there is a resonance with it all, right? That is the authenticity and the, as we call it, design of our social culture. We evolve, in a sense, and some may say that it is a complete circle, right? It is a reset back to the traditional um, case of how this all began. And some people may call it a reset of sorts, right? You see this with like memes, for example, where we kind of have reverted back. No thanks to things like AI, for example, that have essentially artified this entire cultural subset of art, right? Yes, memes are art. Memes are a mimetic agent that allows us to find connected humor and connected tissue between human civilization itself. That's kind of the main entire point, right? That it gives us the capacity to understand one another at a more emotional level at the same time. And so, in that entire case, it allows us to really recognize where we are. And it insinuates ourselves to a larger degree. In a sense, again, because of the fact that this game does not necessarily have a story, right? The main premise is quite literally winning this entire situation. And so, because of that, we essentially have this entire level of thought where we don't rely necessarily on this, again, this attention that has to be placed into a singular narrative or story, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that. You have an amazing number of examples where video game stories are essentially exceeding that level of gameplay. Some may call it a walking simulator and such, but even still, right, that entire projection of a person's own wants and dreams is entirely important to that connection that we essentially have with others. And I'm not necessarily saying that indie games can't have that. Of course, indie games have a lot of narratives. If you all recognize the example that was given before, there being this entire connection. In the games that I personally enjoy and everything else, I mean, you can kind of see that there is this entire repertoire of patterns, right? But that's the thing, right? That even if you essentially contain within yourself this capacity to understand that kind of difference, right? There is this entire line of reasoning. Rarely do I play games that are primarily just platformers, but even still, there are many, many different situations with these as well. We have smaller games such as, Crossy Road and such, right? And it's not to say that games like those can't work for entertainment, right? There is essentially a aspect of storytelling that I was told during my college experience within my class of the short story by my professor, who said that when a person is creating a narrative, no matter if it is small or a narrative in general, they have two main purposes in creating stories, right? Which is to inform and to entertain, right? None of them are mutually exclusive. At least I don't believe they are. Necessarily shouldn't be considered such. But even still, it is entirely this idea behind what really matters. And since I was saying this game also teaches about patience, about not really rushing through when everything else is there. And I mean, that is the entire conceptual aspect of video games in general. It's becoming aware of these kind of situations. So as such, we follow through with these entire examples. Is this the magic symbol? Huh. Interesting. Okay. That returns us to where we were before. Lost here. I did also hear that there is a second game for this, so if you all would like to see that as well, I mean, since that is the value of everything that we essentially aspire to achieve. You have these small little messages in the bottom, which is always hilarious. Oh, all right. Ah, there we go. Where's the last place you haven't checked? There's no maps in this game or anything, which again, still also reminiscent of older games as well. There we go. Now we're getting it. Yes, here we go. 99%. All right. Almost done. That small part of it, I guess. Oh. Not good. Hmm. Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay. Okie dokie. Let me see. Specific way in which we can actually go through with this. Oh, this feels that bad is all the way up there. There we go. That's what we're talking about. gravity here. Hang on. Regrets and sorrows. And of course, many of the themes here, there never was another way, Tower of Sorrow, Sorrow of Regrets. A big part of this entire journey is to essentially see what we can really uncover about these messages. But like we said, the story doesn't have to mean much. It is the essence of the creator to imbue the actual creation with whatever it is that he deems to find necessary. The portals. Gotcha. Let's see. Some may classify this as what we would probably say an anti-YouTuber like kind of game, considering the fact that there's not much that would really there's not really that much substance to it all, necessarily so, of course. But even still, I mean, I still find it to be a really fascinating aspect here. I still find it to be something that we can essentially understand here as well. Just because of the fact there is no real, again, lore or gameplay aesthetic here that essentially would classify it as such, does not necessarily mean that we can't use this as a way to just enjoy our time here. You know, one way or another, of course, but even still, I think it is entirely part of the situation, right? The capacity that we have to understand all these different situations here too. You know? And it is this entire connection of how our own entire values shape our experiences, right? If we don't enjoy a video game for whatever reason, our remembrance of it, our enjoyability of it in general, of course, is going to go down. Obvious statement is obvious, but even still, right? And you have aspects like self-determination, right? More so, SDD, self-determination theory in general, which was developed by, I believe it was like Edward Decky, and Richard Ryans, who use it as a framework for understanding our motivation, right? Human personality, motivation, this optimal functioning of our own mindsets, right? And it posits that people are driven by the natural tendency to grow and master challenges, which requires the satisfaction of these three innate psychological needs, right? Autonomy, competence, and relatedness, right? Autonomy is simple, right? You don't want a game to really hold your hand throughout the entire experience, right? We grow and challenge ourselves because of the fact that it gives us the entire capacity to complete tasks on our own. That's how we grow up. That's how we are taught, right? It is trial and error, as you're seeing in this game here as well. And the second one, competence, is essentially just the capacity to learn and grow. Because of trial and error, we know that we are going to make mistakes. And because of that, we can adapt from them and grow to become better at what we're doing. You have references, of course, this one, the crap cake is a lie, reference to Portal 1, the cake is a lie, whole meme back in the day as well. But again, like, it is part of this entire like love letter to what it means to really play a game. You're not playing it just for the sake of the story, right? Or even just for the sake that everyone else is playing. You're playing it because of the fact that it gives us the incentivization to finish something ourselves, right? Well, speaking of Minecraft, Mineshaft. So that's primarily more void situation here as well, right? But even still, right, it allows us to really understand who we are as people, what we can essentially do at the same time. And of course, relatedness, right? The last concept here. Well, relatedness is just simply the fact that because it's made by a single person, right, it gives us the capacity to better understand ourselves as well, right? If one person can make something, that means that we ourselves can as well, right? And the reaction that people have to games, especially admiration for these simple, creatively driven ones at the same time, can be understood through this SCT, right? Self-determination theory in general, which that because of these three aspects, it shows that enjoyment, continued play, and even this positive mood are pretty much strongly tied to how well this game will satisfy those three needs in general, rather than its scale and technical complexity, right? Okay. Some sort of like double jump or something like that. Or thumbnail right here. Double jump. There we go. I knew we did something like that. Staircases could be a reference to also Super Mario. He's kind of the sky level with the vines as well. Part of the reason why I also wanted this to be a video that we is simply just the fact that a lot of my videos here on this channel are, of course, they're just made by me, myself, obviously. Have these grand scale content driven aspects, but even still, I think part of the reason why there's so much there is simply the fact that it allows us to break what we want. You know? This may not follow the algorithm. It may not even be something that is all that impressive, but even still, right? That's the whole entire point behind it. Is that it gives us the capacity to do these amazing things. What's this? 3 counter clockwise 3 times. Okay. Maybe not. Maybe not. Oh, no. I think we can maybe go from here. Yes, we can. That's weird. Oh, wait, hang on. Cheese it up here. Hang on. Ah. No. There we go. I'll do.
is increasingly apparent in this coming ages that people seem to have forgotten the art of what true beauty is in the line of creation that we have to the people of this earth. That while the stars of the universe remain unexplored by our feet, we instead create new ones within here, in this very place that we call home. We can build worlds from the span of pixels on our screens, coming from a long way from colorful bricks that we laid down when we were young. And even without playing it, we set our sights against those who have the gift that not many of us do. But when the monoliths of graphics that could barely distinguish reality from fiction came by, we find ourselves drawn to the kaleidoscope of the world that has been and will be once more before, and setting our sights into that which offers us comfort. In the lands of dragons and villages of animals that greet our very morning, we became that much more proud of our own continued existence. As games give us the insight into our own choices, our own actions, and the capacity for change. Across the past decade, many independently developed games have gained attention, not because of scale or spectacle, but because of when and why they were made. In the early 2000s, some titles placed players upon complex moral systems shaped by authoritarian control of immigration pressures, reflecting real-life debates about borders and surveillance. By the mid-2010s, other games shifted focus to the human cost of conflict and economic decline, exploring survival, loss, and identity in ways that echoed ongoing wars and the lingering effects of global financial crisis. As the decade progressed, themes of empathy, mental health, and social disconnection became more prominent, mirroring rising contrasting experiences. Some centered around comfort, routine, and gentle social interaction, while others confronted grief and morality more directly. We may regret, we may laugh, cry, fear the horrors that may very well be our own reality. But the promise of that first colored light upon glass was that our hands could reach into the void, the emptiness of hope in a dying world, and tell them, no, you are not living in solace, but I will help you as much as I can. And the life in which we made responds back in kind, into the world that we made. The breath of a single person can make the contents of an entire universe an eternally personal and grateful world.